So I was out on a walk in the woods today, and I had decided to bring a book with me that I've read a few times, and that's not a brag. The book is very short. It's a book comprised of 28 questions and answers, and you know, I was reading this book, and as I'm reading it, I'm just realizing and obviously thinking to myself, this is some really far out stuff. This is some really like heady, philosophical, bordering inconceivable things being conveyed here. And if you don't already know what book I'm talking about, the book is Who Am I? I have it here. I know it's mirrored, but this is what the cover looks like. This man here is Bhagavan Sri Ramana Maharshi. He's passed now, but he was an Indian guru, and I'm not going to get very in depth on his story and, what he represents. I will actually link in the description a documentary that I love to watch every now and then. It brings me to tears. And it goes over his life journey and what he went through and his main teachings and philosophies. But yes, to me, he is a very pure, divine being, and I feel as though I've learned from him and in a way guided by him, just whether it's seeing a picture of him or suddenly feeling the urge to pick up this book again or seeing statements and quotes he's made, just a beautiful being. And while I'm reading this book out in the woods, I thought, what would be fun? It would be fun to sit down, hit record, and kind of articulate and break down these questions and mainly the answers given by Ramana, and just kind of see what comes out of me as I describe what I think he's talking about here. Um, So, yeah, this is going to be a sort of series. I'm not going to read it all in one and just puke it all out. Maybe depending on the length of the question and the length of my articulation of it, I'll do one question per video, maybe two questions per video. But I feel like each thing being said here it holds ground for honestly endless contemplation and endless description. And before I even get into it, I want to say what I'm about to do here in describing and articulating and analyzing and contemplating on the very concepts and words that Ramana has provided for us here. I want to say that that's not the point. That's not it. If anything, what Ramana himself would want you to do in response to all these questions is to ask yourself who's reading it, who's wondering, who's describing, to whom is it that wants to break all of this down. So yeah, I guess I will just get right into it, and I will start by reading the book. So this is the introduction here. Who Am I? Is the title given to a set of questions and answers bearing on self-inquiry. The questions were put to Bhagavan Sri Ramana Maharshi by Sri M. Sivaprakasam Pillai about the year 1902. Sri Pillai, a graduate in philosophy, was at the time employed in the Revenue Department of the South Arcot Collectorate. Not sure what that is. During his visit to Tiruvannamalai in 1902 on official work, he went to Virupaksha Cave, don't mind my illiteracy with their wording here, on Arunachala Hill, and met the Maharshi there. He sought from him spiritual guidance and solicited answers to questions relating to self-inquiry. As Bhagavan was not talking then, not because of any vow he had taken, but because he did not have the inclination to talk, he answered questions put to him by writing. As recollected and recorded by Sri Sivaprakasam Pillai, there were 13 questions and answers to them given by Bhagavan. This record was first published by Sri Pillai in 1923 in the original Tamil, which I think is a language, along with a couple of poems composed by himself relating how Bhagavan's grace operated in his case by dispelling his doubts and by saving him from a crisis in life. Who Am I has been published several times subsequently. We find 13 questions and answers and in some editions and 28 in others. There is also another published version in which the questions are not given and the teachings are rearranged in the form of an essay. It's pretty funny. The extant English translation is of this essay. The present rendering is of the text in the form of 28 questions and answers, along with Vichara Sangraham, which is self-inquiry, Nanyar, Who Am I, constitutes the first set of instructions in the master's own words. These two are the only prose pieces among Bhagavan's works. They clearly set forth the central teaching that the direct path to liberation is self-inquiry. The particular mode in which the inquiry is to be made is lucidly set forth in Nanyar, Who Am I? The mind consists of thoughts. The I thought is the first to arise in the mind. When the inquiry, Who am I, is persistently pursued, all other thoughts get destroyed. And finally, the I thought itself vanishes, leaving the supreme non-dual self, capital S, alone. The false identification of the self with the phenomena of non-self, such as the body and mind, thus ends, and there is illumination. Sakshatkara. The process of inquiry, of course, is not an easy one. As one inquires, Who am I? Other thoughts will arise, but as these arise, one should not yield to them by following them. On the contrary, one should ask, to whom do they arise, like I was stating earlier. In order to do this, one has to be extremely vigilant. Through constant inquiry, one should make the mind stay in its source, without allowing it to wander away and get lost in the mazes of thought created by itself. All other disciplines, such as breath control and meditation on the forms of God, should be regarded as auxiliary practices. They are useful so far as they help the mind to become quiescent, or I think it's quiescent. I'll just pronounce it like that the whole time. Quiescent and one-pointed. For the mind that has gained skill in concentration, self-inquiry becomes comparatively easy. It is by ceaseless inquiry that the thoughts are destroyed and the self realized, the plenary reality, capital R, in which there is not even the I thought, the experience which is referred to as silence. This, in substance, is Bhagavan Sri Ramana Maharshi's teachings in Nanyar, Who Am I? And here is provided a photo of Ramana Maharshi at the age of 21. This was actually the first photo ever taken of him. Pretty far out. Pretty far out. Young man. And this here is Arunachala Hill, which is where he spent a greater portion of his life, I believe, after he had, in the documentary it describes all this. He had traveled there and sort of seated himself there and felt it to be God himself, I think is something he's said in his own words. Who am I? Nanyar. All living beings desire to be happy always, without any misery. In everyone there is observed supreme love for one's self, and happiness alone is the cause of love. In order, therefore, to gain that happiness which is one's nature and which is experienced in the state of deep sleep, where there is no mind, one should know one's self. To achieve this, the path of knowledge, the inquiry in the form of who am I, is the principal means. So, Here we go with the questions. Question 1. Who am I? Here's the answer. The gross body, which is composed of the 7 humors or dhatus, and I want to take a moment here because when I first read this, I thought that the 7 humors or dhatus was in correlation to the chakras, but I was wrong. And I actually wrote down real quick what the 7 dhatus are, and I'll just kind of shoot through it real quick to let you know what he's talking about. So, Shukra is the reproductive system. Maja is the nervous system. Asti is bone and cartilage. Meta is tissue or skin. Mamsa is muscle. Rakta is blood. And rasa is plasma, which is sort of the carrying liquid that blood cells are transported in. So he's basically just describing the in-depth describing the body here. So the gross body, which is composed of the 7 dhatus, I am not. The 5 cognitive sense organs, viz. The senses of hearing, touch, sight, taste, and smell, which apprehend their respective objects, sound, touch, color, taste, and odor, I am not. The 5 cognitive sense organs, the organs of speech, locomotion, grasping, excretion, and procreation, which have as their respective functions speaking, moving, grasping, excreting, and enjoying, I am not. You just said procreation is just enjoying, if you notice that. The 5 vital airs, prana, etc., which perform respectively the 5 functions of inbreathing, etc., I am not. Even the mind which thinks, I am not. The nescience, too, which is endowed only with the residual impressions of objects and in which there are no objects and no functionings, I am not. So that's question 1 right there. So really, in short, immediately what he's saying here is anything conceivable, anything perceivable, that is not you. That is not the I. That is not the ultimate I. Now that immediately takes us on a complete trip, because he's saying here that this whole thing, quote unquote outer and quote unquote inner, is not the I. What's he talking about? The way that this sort of conceptually makes sense to me, and even in some way, it just is, and I don't know how to describe that. All these things he just described, the apparent reality of the body, the mind, the senses, the perceiver and the perceived, the conceiver and the conceived, anything that's apparent here now, that is being observed by you. That is being observed by I. I holds all this, I is aware of all of this. And I guess in a way, to give a sort of analogy, if I see, I am not the sight. If I am the seer, if I know I'm the seer thus becomes an object outside of myself. If I smell, I am not the smell. I am not the odor. If I recognize that I am the smeller, this is something outside of myself. If I think I am aware of such a thing, so the I, the all-pervasive I, holds all this. You know, if I'm thinking, there is not an I that is thinking. There is just thinking. And inclusive inside of this thinking is the conceptualization, I am thinking, or I am the thinker, which is just another thought. It reminds me of what Alan Watts talks about, how it can sort of seem like in the stream of the thinking mind, it's going in a way of thought, 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 thinker, thought, 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 thinker. But this is the stream of thinking mind. There is not an I that arises out of the mind to bear witness to the thoughts that it is having. This is all entirely encapsulated within the thinking conceptual mind. And this is apparent to I. This is apparent to I. It's inside of the awareness of I. So I is not even the thought that I am. You know? And this this goes with the entire world. If I see myself, who is it that is aware of myself? If I know I'm the thinker, who is it that knows I am the thinker? And this is very personal. This is very inner reflective. It's all apparent. It's all apparent, you know, to you, to I. I is not somewhere. It, you know, in Ramana's vocabulary, is the substratum of the whole thing. It is the container of everything, of the seer and the seen, the smeller and the smell, the thinker and the thoughts. It's deep. It's deep stuff. We say to ourselves, I see. Who is it that is seeing? And we say, me. Who is me? As we dive deeper into this reflection, into this inquiry, we realize that anything in which we provide as an answer is coming out of an apparent silence, an apparent nothingness, an apparent awareness. In the same way that as I speak, it's rising out of apparent silence and dissipating into this same silence, into this same nothingness, you know. And in the realm of speaking, it's one moment there is no speech, and in the next moment I'm speaking. And this is all arousal, arising, coming out of, appearing, you know. What's it coming out of? Where is it coming from? Where is this I that is coming from? It's easier to look at yourself as a feeling. The feeling of this right now as the whole thing. You know, the I, witnessing. Than it is to conceptualize that I am the witness. I am the seer. And yet here I am describing and conceptualizing the I that is the witness. But it's not even a witness. It's not even a thing. It is the before the word. It's where it's all arising out of. How do you further break down these things? How do I further break down these things? The entirety of existence appears to I. So what does that make this I? If everything is appearing to me, what am I? You know? Inconceivable. It's inconceivable. I is inconceivable. It's before the idea that it is conceivable or not conceivable. Past and present and even the now has to be maintained in thought to be apparent. Without the thought of past, present, now, mind, body, the universe is neutral, or empty, or sunyata, or void. It just is. And that's where you start getting those kind of statements, that it's all one. It is what it is, man. You and I, the one I, is what we were before we were born, what we are now, what we will be when we die. So does that make us, are we even born? Do we even die? if the I is the container, the holder of existence itself? The I is sort of like the edge of the universe, you know? Think of the, you know, we can bring it down into the physical level. Think of the physical universe. It's just, it goes out, 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 out. Where did it start? You know, the Big Bang. The Big Bang. It was an atom. It was a singularity of everything in it. Where is it in location? Where is the universe taking place, I guess is the right question. And, you know, physicists and scientists would say that's the absolute worst question. Where is the universe taking place? The universe is where it all takes place. But the thing is, you know, along the lines of this self-inquiry and what Ramana is really pointing at here, is the universe, the entire thing, the entire universe is apparent to us, I. So in a way, it's almost like, you know, think of the outer fringes of the everly expanding universe. What's holding it? What is the universe inside of? What dimension is the universe expanding inside of? What space, what substratum holds the universe? You know, maybe even a scientist would say nothing, because there, you know, there is no thing that the universe is inside of. See, and it's like, now you're getting it. Now you're getting onto it. The I is the whole, the holder, you know? It's not apparent in the way the universe is. Think of how watching this video right now, it's all you. It's all to you. It's all, you know, it's how it feels for me right now, how it's, here it is. But to you, you're watching this thing, and it feels like you are you, looking, being, sensing, feeling, thinking, all the feelings, you're breathing. It's as if every individual is the point of it all. And now I can't speak on behalf of this book, you know, because it's a book. In the same way, I can't speak on behalf of you. How you appear, you are apparent as, you know, if I'm on the phone with you, you're a sound, and I'm imagining and conceptualizing these sounds of what you're saying. If you're sitting in front of me, you are a vision. You are apparently seen. If you touch me, you are a feeling, another arising feeling, you know. If you fart, you're a smell. But notice how there seems to be a separation, because you are you and I am I. And I say I, and then look at you and go, you. And you do the same thing. But at the end of the day, in the deep, 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 deep mechanics of it, it's just I. I, and I, and I, and I, and I. It's apparent. It's apparent. I can't, you know, How do I know this thing doesn't feel like it's... How do I know it doesn't feel that it's a pencil? And when I write, it feels pressure. And how do I know that this isn't just like me? I can only conceptualize that this thing is like me, but I typically don't, because it's just a pencil. And it doesn't have a brain and a nervous system, and it doesn't move, and it's not growing. And in that, we can see that we have isolated consciousness, or I, or self, to life, to, and maybe not even the entirety of life, maybe just humans, because we like to say humans are the only self-aware thing. But the thing is, we can't speak on behalf of appearance. I only assume that you're like me. I only assume that you are like this. I can't assume, I mean, I can, and that's what we call confirmation bias. I can't behold your I. You are it. And I am it too. But it's not even me too. It's just I. There is. And this stuff is very, very complex to even begin to grasp because of, I could call it just cultural conditioning, who we've been taught to be, what we've been taught to think the world is, and the universe is, and consciousness is, and I is. This stuff is so hard to work with because of the incredible, we've created a dissociation between what is and what we think it is. You are, and that's that. And if I'm to get caught up in what I think you are, even if I'm to say something cute and clever like, you are me, that separates us. That creates, and this separation is not real in the way that you are and I is. It's not here. It's a thought that you're over there watching this video and I'm right here making the video. Those are thoughts. Conditioned. We've been, the conceptual, sequential thinking mind, we've been taught to think such things. I was just about to say, take a moment to forget it all, but that in itself is kind of complicated. Just let the thinking mind be and realize that all there is the I witnessing everything. Everything. It's all in you. And you are in it. There is no in, out, I watching. There is not the seer and the seen. You just are. I just is. This stuff is far out. And that right there, that word far out, is a conceptualization, to me, to describe something that just doesn't sit within the confines of the thinking mind. It in the same way I does. I is aware of who I think I am. And that was the biggest thing for me in what everybody calls ego death. For me, it was induced by LSD a few years ago now. And I realized I am beyond who I think I am. I am aware of who I think I am. So I am not who I think I am. And this kind of trails us back into this first question or answer here of how Ramana is stating anything apparent. I am not. Because I groks it all. I witnesses, not grasp, not even sees, not even is aware of. None of the thoughts, those are all inside of I as well. I is it's awareness. Awareness is I am awareness. Awareness is self. Self is awareness. And what is inside of you and I is who I think I am, what I think the world is, what I think the self is, what I think you are. Objects, separate from me. And once again, I want to mention that this separation isn't real in the way that you are, that I am. The separation is arising inside of you. And it's cognitively maintained. You know, what separates you and I? What separates you and I? It seems like because we're not thinking the same thing, because we don't feel the same, because we don't look the same, because I can't see you, but I am always with myself, because my skin stops me and I am in this and you are inside of that. What is all this that I just said that separates us? It's a thought. It's an idea. Taught to us and then believed and maintained by us, by the thinking mind. If I let go of the thinking mind, you are just as much I. You are just as available as I am to me. I am. And you are too, is the thinking part, the thinking mind. To even say I am is on a personal inner way level to think about oneself. And the thinking about yourself isn't you thinking about you. That's just thoughts. And you are aware of it. You, who you actually are, is aware of it. also while you are actively breathing, beating your heart, growing your hair, witnessing the seen world, smelling incoming smells, hearing incoming sounds. And it seems as though if I'm busy thinking about myself, I'm not noticing what I'm smelling. I'm not aware of what I'm actually doing. The sights become blurred. It may be not even seemingly apparent because I'm in a dimension of thinking. I'm in a dimension of thinking about myself or thinking about you. But that's not you and I. That's not I. That is, in this case, my thinking mind, if I'm the one thinking about myself. If this life form here that thinks is thinking about itself, it is not in touch with itself. It is not in touch with you. Thinking about myself, thinking about you. But when we realize that I holds it all, I is aware of it all, it's all available. How could it not be? I see my puppa down there. This reminds me, kind of brighten things up here a little bit. I can't not be myself because I am eternally myself. I am myself. To think I'm not being myself is just that. To think I'm not being myself. And all that does is create I guess in one way it can lead us down a path of merging back into what we actually are, or it can lead us down a destructive path of persistently trying to be yourself, trying to be you. But you are effortless. I am effortless. I is effortless. Here it is. And effort comes into only the thinking mind. Be real. Be your true self. What does that entail? You are already you. And when people talk about the separate self or the double self, that's what they're talking about, is the who you think you are, thinking you are yourself. But there isn't a you that is you. You are you. I is. I is I is I is I is I. And we can only think that there is a me to be, to do, to say, to achieve, to chase, to grab hold of. This is all within the thinking mind. And, I keep thinking to myself, I'm thinking to myself, derailing from what Ramana's talking about here, but really, I'm diving into the major problem here, the major distortion, which is the thinking mind. Because the thinking mind is what's actively listening to this video, conceptualizing this video, agreeing or disagreeing or whatever. The thinking mind is the separate self. It's where the separate self resides. And where all the hassle comes in is trying to maintain this separate self. Trying to maintain who you think you are. But I is open to all changes. It holds all changes. It is the changing. This shit's deep. This shit is deep. I don't know. Of course, I don't know what you're thinking about all this stuff. But to me, this is the ultimate inquiry. To recognize I am not who I think I am. I am not in appearance. In appearance, not unappearance. I am not in appearance. I am the entirety. I am not confined by a brain or by a sequence of thoughts or by my skin and my body and emotions. That's the mind, body, I don't even want to say spirit here. I just want to say mind and body complex of getting all tangled up in I am in the mind and in this body and in this brain. Let's take a moment and locate ourselves. You know, for me, it's typically this feeling that I'm behind my eyes, in between my ears. I'm back here looking at my hand. But it's, you know, take a moment and feel where you are. Matter of fact, I'm going to go pee real quick. And while I'm going pee, try to physically find yourself. Maybe repeat to yourself, I, or where am I? Where am I? Where is the I that I am? Use these kind of thinking thoughts to keep the arising of you, the thinking you, and try to find where that's coming from. I'm gonna go pee real quick. Hello. So interesting. This is interesting. I had an inconceivable, like, I can't even keep track of it anymore, array of thoughts as I got up, went pee, and came back. Matter of fact, I lost sort of contact with what I'm even talking about. So where did I go? Oh yeah, did you find yourself, by the way? Did you find where you are? Are you in here? While I was going pee, if anything, I was everywhere. Not. And there were thoughts inside of me. I was aware of thoughts. And they flowed from I'm going pee to petting my cat to, oh yeah, I'm making a video talking about the eternal self, to I'm done peeing, to flushing, to go back, to sit down, to here we are. And the thinking mind is what feels like it's somewhere doing something. But as I've said for the past 45 minutes now, I is just here. It's not doing anything in particular. It isn't somewhere in particular. That's really why it might be hard to find I. When you try to find yourself, who you think you are looks for who you think you are. If you're sort of adept or advanced in self-inquiry and you're told to find yourself, you may quickly realize the best way to go about that is to stop thinking or do nothing. Just be. But this is tricky little ego, sneaky little ego, trying to find itself, trying to be itself, you know? You already are yourself. The self that is all of it. Or aware of all of it. It is the awareness of all of it. And I think that's kind of what Ramana is saying when he says, this whole universe, I am not that. So maybe this question was vastly in depth because it was the utter question, who am I? Which is the title of this book, Nanyar. Self-inquiry. It was like we were sort of collaboratively doing it together. I mean, I don't know what you were busy doing while you watched this video, or if you're even this deep into the video. But yeah, sitting here thinking, reflecting, contemplating on this I. And before I go, I want to say real quick, all of this contemplation I've done is, like, during this video, that's not it. I mean, in essence, it is not the intellectual concepts of what I'm saying, but the happening of it, you know. This contemplation I'm busy doing is to help, to remind who I think I am. And maybe in one way, to help and remind you of who you think you are. To get this deep, deep, deep rooted thing to come alive and turn back in on itself. And stop projecting as much. If we must project, let's turn these projections in on what it is that's projecting. Who is it that's projecting? What is it that's projecting? You know, so contemplation in this fashion can be very beneficial. But what I want to say is this is not Ramana's instruction. To sit and think about what he said is not what he wants you to do. What he wants you to do is see where it's all coming from. See where it's all coming from. That's what I'm trying to do and get you to do, you know, like the singularity, where it all arises out of, what I was talking about in the very beginning, I think. To whom does it arise? Where is it coming from? And to who is it apparent to? So I think I'm going to end the video there. This was question 1. Who am I? In Ramana Maharshi's book, Who Am I? Get a little last bit of brightness before I end this. If you liked this, I think I'm going to carry on recording and articulating these questions regardless. But if you liked this and found it helpful or sort of sparked wonder and contemplation, let me know, because that's what this is about, is waking up that I and realizing we aren't who we think we are. So I hope you enjoyed this video, and I will be back for question 2 at some point, maybe include another question in that, but going off of this first question, which carried on for 57 minutes, maybe it will just be 1 question per video, but I don't know. That's doesn't exist right now. So thank you guys so much for watching, and I will see you later.